Maja Zalaznik. I'm the professor here at the School of Economics and Business for many, many years. And here is my colleague, Gregor Pfajar, also professor, conducting this course. And both together will also conduct this webinar. Actually, Gregor will lead you through today's special hour where we are actually all around the world with a message of what actually regenerative economy is and how we can tackle it through the modern and updated developed technology towards better world and towards better sustainability and towards new business models. So why we are speaking about this project? This project is supported by the Erasmus Plus. That means co-funded by the European Union. And there are many, many very top partners here, being our colleagues around the world. You see from Venice, from UK, from Münster, from Serbia, and so on. So it's about how to join the knowledge from this area for the better understanding of the future economy and development of the future economy. So my job today is just to do the intro to the topic, and Gregor will then take the word on. But if there are any questions here or in the audience being connected to this webinar, please do not hesitate to ask any questions or to interrupt or to raise the hand. Why we are also here today, to involve our stakeholders, to involve our partners. So the third part, actually the second main part, will be something what you like to listen to, I'm sure about that. And these are the real practice cases being developed and designed for the better technology usage, for the better business models, better in sense of sustainability, preserving the scarce resources, and at the same time trying to design new approaches for the regenerative economy. If I just ask you now, what would you say when I would like wake you up at the midnight and say, what do you think is regenerative economy? What would be your somehow, I would say, instant answer? Come on.
It's like a cycle that tries to be sustainable and like brings back the revenues and not only financial from what it does, and while maintaining also environmental resources and basically trying to become more effective and efficient.
Yeah, absolutely in this direction. Anything else maybe? Just out of your mind, out of your thoughts.
We have a nature-based economy in check.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else what it might bring to you, the idea of regenerative in the way as your colleague already explained?
Probably not only environmental factors, but also social.
Social, technology, part, even political at the end of the day, but predominantly also the human resources, us, right? We need to be, that will be a weird expression, sustainable, but we need to know how to handle it for the future. For whom? For you, and you for us. So this is the challenge we are tackling for the regenerative economy project, and we will try to add something new, not only to the scientific part, but predominantly to how to see the future economy, and of course trying to be existing one in the best possible way for the people, planet, profit. Yeah. Okay. So the floor is yours, Gregor. I hope that I've introduced everything what is important, but as I said, if there are any questions, just put this hand or just raise hand, or just let us know, you who are online, and I really hope that you listen to, that you can hear us so that we can make this webinar alive and interactive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maja, for this introduction. So today we look into the technologies that are shaping the regenerative economy. And at the beginning, I would like also to speak about and build on the discussion that we started. So what the regenerative economy really is. So if we look at the definition that we came up within this project, it's like you said, it's about different stakeholders. It's about the positive loop. So it's about the renewal, regeneration, and not the negative loop like deforestation and nevertheless negative consequences that we are getting out of the resources. So the goal is the sustainable and fair future, as it says here, where the economic growth does not harm the environment or society. We had already one webinar preceding this one last week, and those of you who were unable to join or didn't know about it, we will post this webinar online on YouTube by the end of this week, so you can then relate to it and get more insights, particularly of regenerative economy state-of-the-art principles as visible here. I will try to connect these principles later on to the technologies that are emerging and that they are somehow enabling the renewable economy. But first, I would like to say that regenerative is not a niche word. It was a niche word maybe before the COVID pandemic, but since then, we saw many business cases that started to apply regenerative economy principles in their business models. And I will present here just a few such cases to give you an understanding that regenerative is not just a niche, but it's becoming a mainstream. So here we have one case study that is showing that the whole business model is built around the regenerative economy. So here it's a case study of Guayaki. It's a company that was built by the Argentinian diaspora in US, and they are producing the juices that are very popular in South America, but also nowadays globally. The whole business model is built on this principle, which is called market-driven regeneration. Yes, and if we look at the way how the whole value chain looks like, in that case, they say that when you open one of their cans, you are helping to support the regeneration of rainforests, you are celebrating the communities and cultures, you're mitigating the footprint, because they are taking care across the whole supply chain that the regenerative principles are implemented in practice. So, but this is the company that is built from that, regenerative principles. But what we see also in other companies, which are there already for many decades and are huge multinationals, we see that the regenerative principles are also becoming part of their strategy. Here we have a case of Unilever, and Unilever exactly in 2020 and 21 established regenerative agriculture principles and guidelines for all those suppliers who are supplying the products to the company. And they established also in 2020 Climate and Nature Fund, in which they promised to give approximately $1 billion up to 2030 in order to foster the regenerative principles across the supply chain. Here we have just a few examples, what they are doing and the projects that currently are in the process of making. The other case, which goes in similar direction about this regenerative agriculture, is Danone case, another multinational corporation, which is trying to foster the business with the small farms opposed to big farms and trying to implement the principles of regenerative agriculture within those farms. So here's the case of the brand called Prof, which is building the whole brand promise and identity on those principles. So you see, big multinationals are already doing that. The same is IKEA, for instance. IKEA also has, as part of their People and Planet initiative, they have, let's say, a goal that up till 2030, all the materials will be renewable and recyclable. That will be part of the products that they will be selling. So also going in direction of regenerative economy. And the last but not least, we have Walmart, the largest retailer, the largest company in the world in terms of revenues. And we see that also they made the complete, let's say, rejuvenation of the business model, and they stepped into the regenerative economy principles. So in here, again, in 2020, they decided that they will be a regenerative economy type of company. And here are some of the goals that they are trying to fulfill. Yeah. So quite interesting. We see big companies doing that. And as a consequence of that, the Sustainability Agriculture Initiative developed, let's say, a group or an initiative together with, as you see, quite many top brands or global brands to regenerate together towards the regenerative agriculture and the regenerative economy. And here you see some of the principles and practices that they want to implement across the different industries, across different supply chains. So to conclude this short introduction, we could say that the regenerative economy is not a niche anymore, but it's becoming a mainstream. So it's necessary to be familiar with the technologies that are enabling the regenerative economy. Here, we decided to split these technologies in these 10 types of technologies. And we will look at those briefly through different data, through different case studies, and later on at the end, we will try to connect it with the regenerative principles. So let's start with the renewable energy technologies. I think that this is, most of you are familiar with this split between the solar power, hydropower, and wind power. And here we have, let's say, leaders in these categories, in these industries that are also shaping the trends. Like, for instance, we have Solar City, which is nowadays owned by Tesla, which is trying to connect the electrical vehicles with the solar panels. Then we have the company Siemens, which is trying to lead, or they are actually the world market leader in the wind power technology. And what they are doing is they are using the recyclable, these blades for the wind turbines. Then we have hydropower technology. Here, one of the, let's say, modern technologies is electrolysis, where you are splitting the oxygen from hydrogen, and this is what is going to be the future of probably hydropower technologies. And here we have a company, White, which is dominating this landscape. So just to give you some picture when it comes to the figures, when it comes to the data, we see that the investments in these clean energies, when it comes to the renewable energies, are increasing, and particularly the solar energy here is dominating. And then we have also onshore and offshore, so whether it's on land or in the sea. So also the sea wind energy is developing lately. If we look at the top 10 renewable energy trends, we see that one of those is the advanced photovoltaic. So out of this, we see that the most of development is currently happening in the solar power technologies. Here, for instance, we have an interesting Norwegian startup, which is trying to develop the technology that's at the solar panels, also at the ends, the same effect will happen. Because usually when you have a solar panel, the most of energy is generated in the middle of the panel, yes? And usually at the borders, there is not such effect, and they are doing that. Then we have modern technologies like AI, big data, blockchain technologies, which are used to monitor the electricity grids and helping, for instance, consumers to use electricity when it's cheaper for them. And also this can be utilized in the business practice. So we see that there are many technologies that are trying to bring the renewable energy at the forefront. And this is in line also with the policies of governments around the world. Here I'll try to present just a few interesting cases, interesting examples of firms, mostly startups, that try to innovate and try to combine technologies from different parts of the renewable energy spectrum. So here, for instance, we have solar and wind power that are together in these turbine solar panel units that can be used on the rooftops. This is one interesting example. Then we have an example of the wind power that is not such huge appliance or the turbine that you see outside, but can be even put closer to the cities, yes, where there will be not so negative effects as they say. And then, for instance, we have solar canals. So in California, for instance, they were already implementing that. So when you have a water channel, then you have solar panels over it. And for instance, here you have solar panel windows, yes. This is also a new technology that is not utilized such extent that we would want to. We have here in chat some question: is blockchain not energy intensive itself? Yeah, it is. We will have later on a colleague joining, which will have examples about the blockchain, and he will explain this through examples even a bit more. So I guess you will hear about that later on. But you are definitely right. Yes, it is. And this is also the negative side of this, because you see also we speak about the electric vehicles, and they are also saying that when you are disposing the batteries, you have quite a negative effect currently still on the environment. And then the last startup, for instance, here that has interesting idea is that they created off-grid hydro panels that can turn air into drinking water. Yeah. Okay. And this is another example just coming from Spain. This is Vortec bladeless. So we have here, for instance, an example of wind turbine, which is without those blades. Yeah. So this effect, negative effect that they say that these blades have, is here taking out of the question. So as we see, these were the technologies, but we see that also the companies are following this trend and trying to make a promise in their, let's say, strategy that they will switch to the renewable resources. And here we come back to Unilever, for instance, and we see that they plan to switch to 100% renewable resources by 2030 by harnessing the power of wind and solar at their plants. And so they are creating their own factories for renewable energy. Okay, so this is one aspect of technology, so renewable energy. The other one is energy storage. Energy storage is connected also with the electronic vehicles in a way, because what we see is that today when it comes to the batteries, mostly they are lithium-ion batteries, which have certain negative effects. Predominantly when you dispose them, the major effect, negative effect, is the threat of fire. Yes, so they can cause fire. So we have here in this industry significant developments towards the solid-state batteries. And here one of the major breakthroughs happened by this Nobel Prize winner in 2009. He got a Nobel Prize for chemistry. And he discovered the so-called lithium glass battery. Yeah. And this lithium glass battery, as it says here, it's 3 times more effective in terms of the storage, and it has much longer usage time. So what is the application here? For instance, because we have batteries also in electric vehicles, this would mean that they are safer, lighter, and nevertheless, they can also, you can increase the range of electric vehicles, which is one of the currently downsides of using the electric vehicles. And nevertheless, you can also harness the power of the solar and wind much better. Yep. So energy storage, here the development goes towards the solid-state batteries. It's still in development. We don't have economic, let's say, applicability in practice yet, but in the future, these technologies might soon come out. Then we have electric vehicles. Yeah, electric vehicles, we know that they are in the rise. Here we have just a short overview of the data from the World Market Automotive Report by the Euromonitor. And we see that if we compare these last years from 2017 to 2020, there was a significant rise, yeah, when it comes to the registrations of the electrical vehicles. And this is going to happen even faster in the following years. We see that when it comes to countries around the globe, we see that the Western Europe is leading the way. And here we expect by 2027 that half of the registered cars will be electrical vehicles. Main challenges that here still exist when it comes to the applicability of this technology, or why consumers are not choosing electrical vehicles, is because they are much more expensive than the other, yes. Then the other one, the other challenge is, of course, connected with the range anxiety, because we don't have all countries covered in the same way when it comes to the places where you can charge the cars. And the last one that is maybe less discussed in public is the electricity grid. Yeah, we need to adapt the electricity grids to this growth of the electrical vehicles, and this is not equally following the growth as we see in practice. So if we go further, it's interesting when it comes to this challenge, which country, or let's say whether there is a landscape good enough or electricity grid good enough for electrical vehicle adaptation. This electrical vehicle readiness index will give us an answer. Here we see that based on the recent data, we have the top, let's say, 20 countries performing well, and these are, as you see, mostly European countries. That's why we say that the European Union, or let's say European countries, will be at the forefront of this innovation. Okay, then the next one is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is connected with the, we could say, smart grids, smart buildings technology, and nevertheless also innovative technologies that enable the better use of the existing technologies. Here we have one interesting example of Goodyear Recharge, which was somehow as a pilot project launched also in 2020. And the idea here was that each individual would not need to change the tire, but they will change just this inner part, yeah, which will be applicable or adaptable to and customizable to each single consumer and also to their own conditions. So it will be much more effective and much easier to change the tires. And the whole story behind this, or the whole compound or the product itself, is based on the spider silk as one of those materials that are extremely durable and also biodegradable. So here, this would be the energy efficiency. The next technology that is also connected with the regenerative economy is waste management technology. This waste management can be somehow split the technologies in two parts. One is recyclable technology, and the second one is waste to energy. So the first part is when you are collecting the waste, and then you are using this material that it comes out to produce new goods, for instance. While waste to energy, it means that you are using the waste to produce the energy. Yeah. And here we have, for instance, one of the companies, UK-based company, Veolia, which is doing both. But I'll give you even more examples in these both areas. One is this one. Yeah, when it comes to waste to energy, it's food waste that can be used for solar panels. This was just recently introduced by one of the engineering students who was working at this company called Arios, and he came to the idea and also managed to implement it into the final prototype that you can use the discarded fruit and vegetable particles for developing the solar panel, and then use the solar panel at the buildings as windows to get the energy. This was also awarded as one of the most sustainable solutions in the last 3 years. Okay, then we have another example, which is called TerraCycle, which is also quite interesting story, because this company started from the idea of waste management. The owner or the founder of the company was in 2001. He was still a student, and he saw that there is a lot of food going to waste at the local restaurant at the campus. And he started to use this waste to produce the fertilizer for farmers to get the better crops out. So this was the start of the TerraCycle, and nowadays the firm developed into a very circular model, we could say. So here, for instance, we have examples that they partner, for instance, with P&G together. So Procter & Gamble, one of the largest also multinationals, to get the plastic from the beaches or from the shores, yeah, and then use it for the plastic packaging of the shampoos. So this is what is one side of their story. And then there is also another side of the story, that they developed a Loop initiative. This is also their own brand. So Loop initiative, it means that you are collecting different waste, not just food waste or plastic waste, but whatever waste you have, at the campus, at the offices, wherever, and also in the stores. You have this kind of boxes where you can put it, or you have a box that you can buy and you can put it in and just send it to the company. So this is so-called circular model, when the waste is getting back to the company, and they then utilize it for rebuilding or getting with the new materials out. Yeah. Okay. The next aspect that we can talk about is so-called water management. We know that around 40% of people nowadays around the globe have already issues with the access with the water, and nevertheless also the issues with the conservation. Yeah. And here we see that there are companies which are trying to do something about this conservation of the water, so that you can utilize it later also for the agricultural purposes, and nevertheless also smart irrigation technologies, which help farmers to use less water and at the right time when it's needed. So these are just a few examples of firms which are introducing such technologies. Now we are coming slowly to this precision agriculture technology, which is a technology that is connected with the farming and managing the farming. Yeah. So here we see what is the issue. We see the issue that agriculture is one of the largest polluters when it comes to global emissions, and they are primary contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. And the case is, if we are not addressing this issue, we will have the rise of these emissions, as we see here, approximately 15 to 20% by 2050. So therefore, different companies are trying to address this issue with the innovative solution, innovative technologies. So one of those, as we mentioned already before, is this electrolysis. The other one is, we could say, also the renewable energy. And there are many others that we will check through this application now. So just to start the discussion, if we apply these different technologies that will help us decrease this, we could say, fertilizer, like green ammonia, in that case, for instance, looking at the average basket, consumer basket, we would decrease these emissions by 5%. So this is already a nice step towards better regeneration. So here, one survey that was done by the McKinsey was the survey about which technologies global farmers are willing to adopt. And here we see, when it comes to the technologies in farming, so precision farming, you see that this is farm management software, which is dominating these technologies. And then we have precision agriculture hardware, remote sensing, and so forth. We see here that Europe and North America are leading the way, while when it comes to biological products introduction, we see, interestingly, it's Brazil and South America is leading globally when it comes to the application and the usage. We see also when it comes to the other, let's say, technologies, these are biotechnologies. We see here, again, bioproducts predominantly, Brazil dominating, as we already said before. So overall, if we look at different types of the technologies that can exist and contribute to the precision agriculture, like yield monitor, mapping, fertilizer application, like variable rate and so forth, we see again that globally we are not covering even 20% of farmers with that technology. So it's somehow at the developing state, at the beginning of the adoption cycle, we could say, to some extent. So to see which are the drivers and barriers of precision agriculture, well, drivers definitely are coming from consumers. Yes, consumers are those which are much more sustainable and regenerative focused, predominantly also younger generation, and there is a trend in the rise in the last years. Then we have also changing business models, like we saw at the beginning of those companies. And so not just small companies which are coming new to the market, but also large multinationals are changing it. And nevertheless, also regulations. If we look at this data here, we would see that quite many countries started to apply certain regulations that would take out from the market those which are not following this, let's say, trends towards the high-tech precision agriculture technologies. Because those practices will definitely contribute even more to the gas emissions. And we see that there is a quite high openness for the innovation in the sector, although we see that not many are using it yet. But what are the barriers for scaling? Main barriers are predominantly connected with the unknown return on investment. Yes, so we don't know exactly what kind of percentage will be given back in this sense. It's still high cost of such technology. And currently, as we said, there are not many who are willing to pay such high prices for this technology. But the challenges currently are connected mostly to what is happening around the world, nevertheless. Yes? So rising costs due to inflation. Here we see that for farmers, specific inputs increased dramatically. Like for instance, for fertilizer, the prices went up in the last year for 71%. So the connectivity in general, yes, so the connectivity of different appliances, the technology that is behind the connectivity, like we see smart crop monitoring, drone farming, and so forth. These are the technologies which will definitely drive the future of the agriculture. And we see that the applicability of this technology, first one is smart crop monitoring. So the technologies behind these are the ones that are currently dominating the landscape. But as we see, by 2030, this agriculture connectivity could unlock, as you see, $500 billion in GDP around the world. So this is a lot. This is a lot. And just to conclude this part with the farming example in the vineyards, we see that the automation of the autonomous farming, so that you have autonomous functions, so either semi-autonomous technology like assisted steering, or when you have fully automated, when you take the unwanted crops, or fully automated, yes, when you have the usage of generative AI for helping you monitor when exactly to water the crops and so forth. So this type of solutions can bring quite significant positive effects for the average vineyard. But the usage currently is less than 5% around the world. Yeah. Opposed to this farm management software, which is the most used technology, and this is 21% at the moment. So then the next option, that technology that we have, is carbon capture and storage. So we know everything, probably heard a lot of stories of CO2 emissions, Volkswagen scandal, and so forth. And here we have the example of a company which is capturing this CO2 emissions with the technology and then storing it underground. So this company is very successful also in turning the air into better quality air, let's say. So companies that are committing to decrease the carbon emissions are as follows based on this survey. Latest survey, we see that quite many are in the consumer packaged goods segment, like for instance, Nestle is such example, then in retail sector, and nevertheless in the agriculture. So these sectors are the sectors that are showing the way the other industries, how this should be done. Okay, then if we look at one of such examples, for instance, innovative technology is Unilever example, which partnered with the company called Evonik to get to the renewable ingredient called ramolipid. And this ingredient is used now in the newest washing powder or liquids. And this is completely renewable, biodegradable. And this is a huge success and huge revolution, because we know that all those washing liquids can have quite harm to the nature. And then green buildings. Green buildings, we know many examples of gardens on top of the buildings. But the interesting example here that I wanted to give you that is something somehow different is this one, where the Zimbabwean architect used a specific technology principle called biomimicry to get to the cooling system of or natural cooling system of the buildings there. Very interesting case. We don't have much time still because we are already almost out of time, but very interesting case when it comes to the green buildings initiative. And the last technology that I wanted to mention today is the environmental monitoring. So there are, of course, some standards that the Green Deal and also policies are trying to follow. And this is also this quite technical term PM 2.5. So this is how much of the CO2 emissions are in the air. And there are, for instance, companies which is for instance aerosol. This is out of all this is the only Slovene company, but it's interesting, yeah, because they are the global market leader in the measurement and the research of black carbon. They did the research here in Ljubljana, and when they closed the city center of Ljubljana, they managed to show the decrease of more than 80% of these emissions. So this is what companies, what this type of technology can help. And now to conclude, yeah, we have, as we see, 10 different technologies that we mentioned today with different examples. But are they really connected with the regenerative principles? Yes, they are. So here, based on our observation, we connected these technologies with the principles that were explained in the previous webinar, which you can also get through online viewing. So with that, I'm concluding this part, and I will invite Marco, which hopefully is
and thank you, Gregor, for this first part. And look at these circles here. This is something what we need all of us to work on, because the cases you just listened to are, of course, cases which seems from one side obvious, but that doesn't mean that everyone is using that technology, that it's globally accepted. So we need to work more and more to gain through technologies that better world we are striving and trying to get to, which means that we need to balance the ecosystem in which we live. And through these circles, we would like to show you how important it is from the regenerative aspect that we bring this ecosystem to a higher level of regeneration so that it gives itself the right sources, I would say fuels and energy to build again and again, that we can live a quality life. That means also the life with sustainable sources in this particular planet. So when you listen to the cases, what did you think about? What it brought to your mind? What was somehow a reflection you got? Please. Okay, be brave and say.
Mostly like that, as this was a newish concept a couple of years ago, like it's becoming the baseline. So like I'm thinking like, where are we going from? Like,
excellent.
What's
excellent
going to the future? Because we're still talking about what already is becoming a standard.
Yeah, very grateful for this thought, because I think it's upon all of us, right? How to go ahead, how to move forward within all this knowledge we possess in the world, but how to make it much more spread within the world and go beyond even. So that's, I think, what is, as I said, on your generation and our generation to step together to go further. So thank you for that reflection. Any other reflection? I know that we went through the cases very quickly, but I also know that you know most of the parts and ideas which are driven here within the new technologies, and especially with the new business models, which needs actually the turnaround in a way to think how to make us and everyone renewable. And that's not an easy job for the humankind, right? Any other reflections, thoughts, suggestions?
I personally sometimes, I agree first of all with what you said. Sometimes I feel like the Europe and the West, we are preaching the whole world how we should act, react, and live. But at the same time, we have people that live somewhere where food is scarce, for example. And I think they don't care about pesticides, they just like something to play. So
exactly, and because of this reality, as we can say it, right? We need to move forward to spread this new approaches and help to each other actually to be more regenerative, not only in certain parts, as you mentioned, Europe and the Western side, but also generally in the world. And thank you for this observation. I think that this is where we need to work a lot, right? Thank you.
On the same kind of notion, like it's also very much pretty ideas on the paper, but how much is it implemented? It's like the same case as Austria being very hyped about eco-energy and building windmills and like closing down all the electricity operations that are based on coal and everything else, and then just pulling energy from coal.
Yeah.
So the same thing. So like on paper we are eco, but
yeah,
like where do we source that
and
from?
therefore we need such projects as regenerative economy, right? And cases to be shown to everyone how the world has already done a much progress and a great progress actually in many, many areas. So how to bring them together, not to stay on the paper, but to bring them to the real life. Yes. Thank you. And now I think it's Marco's turn. Marco Segovia is the champ of the Circular Change Institute, being based in Ljubljana, Slovenia. And this institute is also part of the bigger platform, Circular Change of Europe, actually supported by European Commission also. And we are really proud and grateful that Marco is today with us. And we will give him the floor. Thank you, Marco, for coming.
So thank you, Maja. Thank you, Gregor. Thank you for this. So good morning to everybody. I will start sharing my screen so that you will be able to see my presentation. So now, can I get a confirmation, because now I don't see you. Do you see my presentation? Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. So as it was introduced, my name is Marco Segovia. I work at Circular Change. We're a private non-profit organization. We're based in Ljubljana in Slovenia, but most of our work also is done internationally, as also Maja just addressed with through the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform and other projects that we work with in Europe and in other parts of the world, as you can see here. This is a brief introduction of us, very brief, so that then we can jump into the content that we will address today. And our key focus areas are consultancy, but better than that is expertise support and co-creation of circular solutions with stakeholders, education, as we have today, building a new narrative, and circular diplomacy, so fostering international cooperation in the scope of circular economy. But why we work on this is because we're dealing with several issues here in not only in Europe, but what you can see here is the data actually that comes from Europe and from the world. So we have trends that are created by our linear way of thinking, or our linear way of functioning of societies, businesses, and economics, that are creating a problem of waste, right? On one hand, they are creating a problem of intensive raw material extraction on the other hand, and depletion. Then that's why we need this regeneration, right? And plus also creating a huge environmental, let's say, environmental impact in the short, medium, and long term. And then this has an impact as well in our economic and societal and social dimensions, then in the medium and long term as well, as we can see with it, for example, climate change. A very, very good resource for you, if you're not aware, to get a bit more in touch with circular economy and how it contributes to the regenerative economy, is the Circularity Gap Report, which the last edition just came out, 2024. It's carried by Circular Economy, one of the key organizations in this in Europe. They're located in the Netherlands, and Deloitte, and it basically gives you an overview of what's the actual status of circular economy worldwide. But when we deal with it, before we go into actual cases and examples of what the circular economy in the scope of regenerative economy means in the practice, what I would like to stress a bit is systems thinking. That's when we address the circular economy transition or regenerative economy transition, we address a multidisciplinary problem and a multi-layered problem that needs a multidisciplinary approach. But more than that, we need to understand that we deal with systems here. So is understanding the systems, how systems work, and thinking that there are different components, different stakeholders involved, different dynamics, different knowledge, and it's always then it's very crucial to use this systems thinking approach, because otherwise what we create is this partial solutions that don't end up concretely solving the overall problem. Or actually, sometimes we just move, we solve one problem, but we actually move that problem somewhere else. And I'm just focusing here on some of the aspects related to circular and regenerative economy, which are, we need to understand this. Here we go beyond just environmental protection. We're dealing with, to see the first word here highlighted, word economic. So it needs to be something that is sustainable for environment. It's sustainable, also generating an economy that regenerates then our resources, contributing to well-being, contributing to these renewable resources. So thinking how nature works, where there is, where there is regeneration, and also working with innovation and R&D activities that are what is going to fit then into creating these solutions in practice. But maybe it was already, you covered the theory, so I will go briefly on this. But when we deal with regeneration, every resource has its regeneration time, and actually what we're dealing now with the linear economy is depleting the stocks of natural resources. We're actually not regenerating them because we end up creating waste. Well, not all of it is recycled, not all of it is restored, because that's actually the problem. We don't, the loops of materials that naturally occur, we're basically, through our linear approach, we're basically cutting them, right? So that's what we're trying to do with the circular economy and also the regenerative economy, to creating these loops of materials, giving it back so that then there can be this regeneration. But how do we address this on practice, or how to address this circular innovation? As I said, we need to understand that we need to understand that the reality is very complex. So, as I said, we need to engage different stakeholders, understand the different types of knowledge, link different types of capacities. That's why these pictures like these are very important. Or you can see here, this is very famous, but makes you understand what systems thinking actually means in circular economy. Because often what we deal with when we have studied the cases that we have studied is that there are different perspectives. There are different not only perspectives, but also the understanding, and sometimes different languages, not in terms of an actual language, but how is understood a certain problem by a stakeholder or another. But they're actually working in that problem together. So we need to, that's why more than systems thinking, and we will see that later, we need this collaboration between stakeholders to really create and we co-create these circular and regenerative solutions. With this, the development of systems approach. This help us to address some of the risks, some of the most relevant risks that our society is facing right now, as I was saying, that go from environmental nature to geopolitical nature, economics and socials. But I will jump fast through this and go right to what we're here today also, so how we look in practice, right? So there are a lot of best cases or best practices examples that we could talk with you today, but we have clustered them into two important frameworks, also keeping what's included in the program. One is how the circular regenerative solutions, circular bio-based regenerative solutions, and the other one is how the digital innovation technologies are contributing to creating circular regenerative solutions. So if we start from the first one, so here you see three words: regenerative, so regeneration of resources; circular, so we're creating loops; and bio-based. What does it mean, this last one? So we're basically regenerating the biological resources and creating business models in this sector. And these include three basic, there are three big areas which is that are very relevant, which is the second one that you see here, regenerative farming and aquaculture. So these are actually practices and new business models and new ways of thinking applied to agriculture, to farming, to aquaculture and fisheries, in order to regenerate the resources and diversify the revenue streams and business models of this sector. Also with the use of technology as well. Then we have also advanced circular biorefineries and biomimicry. So biomimicry means understanding getting inspiration of how nature actually works and putting that into technology. So if we start from this, just to make you understand how wide it can be, the circular economy in terms of regeneration, we start from examples that are like regenerative agriculture, which actually means increasing these circular practices of closing the loops of resources, creating, this is for example an example in Slovenia, creating using the secondary raw materials and waste and bio-waste that is generated from there, using it a technology that then can be used either to produce, for example, organic fertilizer and circular bio-based fertilizer that is used in the farms. So they were regenerating the soil. Circular water management systems, regenerating the water as well. And implementing these, also what it means regenerative, it's these practices that contribute to regenerate biodiversity. So that's in this sector, the new innovations that are happening is to how to use different species of plants and animals to have a very auto-regenerative system where one organism processes feed and relate to the one of another, reducing the use of synthetic fertilizers, reducing the use of pesticides, and increasing the quality of soil, water, and contributing also to different products, because then, when, for example, when you see here the example of Clef Verde, which is in Slovenia, they are now having more species. This Clef Verde is a winery example. So their main business model is the selling of wine, but through the use of regenerative agricultural practices, they have included also some other species that are contributing to revenue, to new revenue streams, new products that are integrating them. So, while on one side contributing to the local environmental impact, reducing the use of some resources and pesticides. On the other hand, we have also the added diversification of the revenue streams. And this is just we start with this the least, let's say, technological example, and then we will increase the technological complexity. But there are a lot of examples carried out through Europe. One of these was the first one that here we see. This is one of the key leaders in this sector, Finca San Felipe in Spain, which is led by a project from EIT Food. EIT Food is one of the key subjects in Europe that you should look forward to when you think about circular bioeconomy. Where this is actually coming into real practice into a larger scale. But now, if we stay in this topic of circular bio-based economy and linking it more with technology, here we have this example of this company called Brewdog, which is actually a brewery located in the UK. They have also opened in the USA. And what they are doing is they have very ambitious goals about becoming net positive, about becoming circular, regenerative. And they are implementing technologies that allow them, so circular biorefiners, the ones that I was mentioning at the beginning, that allow them to produce their own fertilizers, allows them to produce their own energy. And they're integrating this with the use of other renewable resources, while regenerating the soils where they work in. So they, on one side, they regenerate soils, they have clean energy, and on the other hand, the processes that they are using, it allows us also to circulate, close the loops of water, right? So they also regenerating water in that sense. And they have this very, as you can see here, this very important ambition here. So if you can see here, 24 months to carbon neutral Brewdog. So that's their new goal. Here you can see this scheme is a very good example where you can understand how their system thinking is working. So they are thinking of energy. They're thinking of the raw materials that they need. They're thinking that their business model depends on the natural resources and the quality and availability of how these resources, the biodiversity that contributes to the quality of these resources. And so they're trying to give that back. So, because what is happening when we have linear business models, in these cases, we have this actual depletion of resources that actually also in the long term, in the medium and long term, contributes negatively to the same business, because then it will be depleting, damaging its own environment, which will actually damage its raw materials, which will actually damage its outcomes and in the end its business, right? So this is there are companies like this that are already understanding it. They're implementing this let's say least technological aspect, as I was saying, regenerative agriculture. On the other, but on the other hand, they're mixing this with actual technology that is bringing this circular bio-based produced energy, renewable energy, and this is allowing them to reduce their overall CO2 emissions in their own operations, their operations with their suppliers, and if you're familiar with the GHG emission protocol, we have scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So that means the emissions that I produce, the emissions that I indirectly contribute through energy use, and the emissions of my suppliers. So what we see here when a company deals with an example like this is this value chain approach, which is very important to create this kind of solutions, because what we often say is that a company can't achieve circular regenerative alone. There is a strong need of collaboration, and this value chain collaboration is very important. That's why this systems thinking enters here right now. So where am I in my value chain? How can I make my value chain? Because for creating actual circular businesses, we need to create circular value chains also. And these companies also then implementing, they have pilots of really innovative projects about electric mobility and alternative mobility for their supplier network. And so here we can see a company, why I chose this case study here is because you can see how a company should act. There are different fronts that should be addressed. One is technology, one is resources, one is economics, business model, social contribution that the company is addressing, so in a systemic way to contribute to becoming circular and regenerative. We have an example here in Slovenia, actually, in this sector. This company is Aquafil Slow, which is part of an Italian multinational called Aquafil SPA, and it's what they are doing with their business models, with their technology. They first created innovating technology that allowed them to turn fishing nets into new polyester, right? So there we have this circular, the circular flow rather than using fossil-based polyester, right? But other than that, they're contributing to a lot of research projects in the bio-based sector. So looking for alternatives, or for example, from bio-waste streams. That was what is linked also to these advanced circular biorefineries that I was addressing. Because through a biorefinery, what you can do is like Brewdog, the previous company that is producing organic fertilizers and energy out of it. So using anaerobic digestion processes, but also then going to an advanced biorefinery that can actually produce with bio-based processes, with biological processes. They can, and biotechnology, they can produce advanced chemicals, advanced polymers, pharmaceutic compounds. And in this specific case, they are producing this bio-based polyester and bio-based nylon. So this is from a European project, research project called Effective, which was one of the flagship projects here also in Slovenia. And so this is the last example of this first part that I was saying of circular bio-based regenerative, which I wanted to show you as a first group of practices, because this makes you understand how vast can the circular economy that contributes to regenerative economy look into practice. From the farms, applying new innovation, which is either technological or in the ways farms are actually managed, because that's happening. So technology innovation and management, business innovation, to then actual high-level advanced technological processes that contribute to some circular bio-based businesses. And for example, here you can see how I was talking earlier about value chain and circular value chain. So here's what a very generic model of a circular bio-based value chain can look like. And what you see here, there are different steps. You see agriculture, food processing, bio-waste, people. So this helps you understand the systems thinking approach that we use with companies and we use with stakeholders when we're addressing a circular problem. But also it makes you see that a lot of stakeholders here are involved. And so we need, in order to create actual circularity, actual regeneration, we need to really, really involve them more: suppliers, value chain, stakeholders, other businesses, even not only business related value chain stakeholders, but civil society, policymakers, NGOs, all the education, because all these can contribute then in this symbiosis of competences, resources, and innovation. And the second, as I was telling you, we clustered our examples that we're addressing today into two. This is the second part, which actually relates how the innovations in digitalization are contributing to circular regenerative solutions. And in the first case, of course, in order to have circular flows, regenerative flows, so closing the actual loops, we needed to trace our resources. Resource traceability is very important here. If we don't trace our resources, we don't know how much there is of certain resources, and we can't expect to close that loop, right? And here, blockchain innovation has been very important. The use of digital twins to actually allow the addressing of the whole life cycle of a material, of a product. For example, there is maybe you're familiar with Suez, one of the largest companies that deals with wastewater and waste in Europe. They have their circular chain project based on blockchain technology and the Internet of Things to actually increase the traceability of organic matter. Maybe you're more familiar with the Internet of Things and blockchain in terms of the traceability, for example, of a more physical product like a phone or another product like that. But this can be even applied to what we were seeing earlier, so bio-based streams, in this case, organic matter and sludges. This is what they are applying it. But this is also, how the Internet of Things is also in contributing to this resource traceability, is that when we're measuring with different, with the use of different technologies that are sensors, RFID tags, and scanning, the use of certain coding, this allows us to map our, as I was saying, the flow of our resources, enabling circular resource management, allowing to address the life cycle. Because if you're familiar, you have heard of life cycle assessment, which generally is based on very on theoretical on some theoretical indicators that then allow you to have us calculate the impact of a certain product or a certain business. But then how specific are these to my case? That's also sometimes the question. So how appropriate is the data that I'm using? And this is where Internet of Things it's actually very important, because it allows me to get the actual data that serves to my case, which allows for a better evaluation and then for a better decision making afterwards. This also enables the development of circular supply chain management. And this is also now being developed a lot through research projects carried out by MIT in the USA. And here I will come to you with a very, very simple example, which is this company called Mori. They are producing this sustainable, reusable packaging for coffee shops in the UK, where the UK companies actually save money by using this kind of packaging compared to the normal disposable packaging they have. It actually makes them save quite some money all through the year. And each packaging has its own tag, and this is allows the monitoring to the Mori company to see where the actual packaging is, which company has it, when it will be returned, and they have created this whole automated system in the UK, and they're trying also to expand this to their countries. One of them is starting now also through a pilot program in Slovenia, for example. And so this smart packaging, sustainable packaging solution, which is allowing for reducing the use of natural resources and fossil-based resources to produce the packaging, allowing for more circular supply chain management, and so allowing them, by reducing the use of resources, allowing also the regeneration. Another example in this case is Circularize. This is one of the key frontrunners in this sector. Maybe you have heard the term of digital product passport. So this is what we actually need very much now in the circular transition. So we have a product, we have a certain material, we need to digitalize this material, we need the information related to this material, and that's done through digital product passports, which allow then the actual monitoring of the life cycle of this and footprint of such products, increase the traceability. And one of the key things in businesses and value chains is supply chain transparency, because supply chain transparency allows for supply chain management. Without supply chain transparency, so traceability allows us for transparency, and transparency allows for one business to work with another, right? So because that's what we need. So we need technology that enables businesses to work together. That's contributing to this value chain approach. Another example on this is very similar. So this green product passport, one of the first green product passport created for electronic devices by this company here, Exita from Spain, in collaboration also with other companies, which has a similar approach. They use IoT, they use blockchain, and in this case, they also use artificial intelligence to actually automate and analyze to actually improve some of the processes, right? Manage the complete cycle of electronic devices, for example, in this case, but also reduce the cost. So to optimize, and there is where artificial intelligence being added to these other two technologies can help us then reduce, for example, resource use and allow for resource regeneration. And somehow the examples that you have seen until now out of, if you see this is a big effort, requires a big company that works on it. But there are also some startups working on these solutions. For example, here we have a startup that is actually is a very young startup. They were born in Kosovo. So actually, when you're thinking of startup and innovation, you actually don't think of Kosovo as the first place where you would find it. But this biotech agriculture, what they're doing, and is one of among the startups working on this sector, is digital solutions for farmers. Farmers don't have sometimes the capacities to address all these new needed innovation, the new needs they have, the new needs that the sector has, and they're creating these smart greenhouses, allowing for a monitoring of the resources that farmers are using, like water, for example. I think we have fertilizer and other resources, but allowing for a smarter use of these resources based on what are the needs and which needs. So context, so very specific needs for their case. What is their soil? What is their context? What is their capacity? Is allowing them to optimize the use, but also allowing them to regenerate the resources and be more resilient. Because here a big problem that we deal in this sector, for example, with farmers, is this problem of lack of resiliency and very high sensitivity to climate change. So that's why circular water management can be done, for example, by a big farming company. They have the technology, the capacity, the financial resources, but then we have also farmers that are, of course, not educated in that we don't expect them to be. And here's where these companies like this also help through digitalization. Then we also have, of course, as I was saying, the use of artificial intelligence to reduce cost, optimize. And when we see the regeneration, I was saying we need to create loops of resources. We need to reduce the use of a certain resource, the exploitation of a certain resource. And there is a lot of efforts now undergoing. Is one of the areas where some research is now stemming there of where artificial intelligence is being used. Unfortunately, here there is not much to show of actual success cases, but I'm putting this example here just for you to also, you can then also research yourself more about this, because it's one of the areas where some it's growing and it will become greater and more applied in the future. And this can be applied as we were seeing for different types of resources, but that go from the first example that we saw from sludge, so an organic matter, which is actually you'd expected, to actually metals and other materials, which are actually more familiar. And for example, here you see the European Space Agency working actually on this. So why I mentioned this example is not because this is adding something else to these other examples in terms of content, but it shows you how different stakeholders are actually working on the topic. Businesses are working on it. Of course, universities and research centers are working on this, but then we also have other institutions that have actually the great availability of financial resources. And sometimes we often forget that innovation that can be used in a certain field can come from a totally different field, right? And among the trends that a lot of other examples are ongoing, is the use of AI to design circular products, because that's one of the regenerative business models, is to have your circular business model and have a circular product. But of course, it's how to, and one of the things we promote a lot, and it's being promoted, is rethinking how we design the products, because 80% of the environmental impact of a product comes from its design. That's why circular product design is very important. But we also think of it, when we think of innovation, we often think of technological innovation, but we also have a very impactful innovation, which is business innovation. So how our business is working, how is my business model working? And then AI is now being utilized to actually create new business models. Then we have also, of course, circular economy platforms that allow the smart exchange of and selling, the enabling of markets of secondary raw materials and circular products, the use of robotics. And often when we think with technology and how use technology for circular economy, the ones that I've said maybe are the most obvious. The least obvious one is how, for example, the third bullet point that you see here, the use of augmented reality and other technologies for how to contribute to the interface in between the business and the consumer, the final consumer. Why is this important? Because there is a lot of we have the environmental impact of businesses, right? But we have also the environmental impact of the choice of consumers, which is in the other end. And sometimes the use of certain technologies, and not only technologies, but how we communicate through these technologies to the consumers can allow us for a very, very reduced environmental impact. MIT in the USA is working a lot of this in sustainable supply chain management, and actually, because often we can work on businesses that are circular, that are sustainable, but then the actual choice of what is bought is made by the consumer. So they're working a lot on this, how through digitalization reach the consumer, so that then circular friendly products are chosen, circular friendly services are modeled. So for example, rather than choosing an expedite delivery, delaying it, delaying this delivery, for example, it may seem to you as a nonsense innovation, but allows the supply chain to reduce heavily its CO2 impact and allow for a more agile supply chain within which creates a cascade effect, allowing for a better management, better optimization, better business, reduction of costs, and among others. We have also some of the cases relate to difficult materials that can be materials that are difficult to be recycled, that are difficult to extract from a certain product. For example, when we deal with our phones, our batteries are basically containing, we can't extract them. So here there are technology solutions that are improving the recycling of certain materials that are difficult to recycle. But on the other hand, we don't need to invent from scratch a technology that will allow us to extract the battery from the phone. Rather than that, we promote there, in that case, the non-technical innovation that can allow us for regeneration. As I was saying, business innovation and design. So that's why here I'm drawing this. So how a circular business can become one. They have to, when we're dealing with their product, they have to ask them, how can I get my product back? Because as I was telling you, if we go back here, how circular strategies can be implemented in a business, we can allow for better regeneration if we extend the life cycle of a product. So a product that is more durable, lasts more, we will slow down the use of resources, and that's how we contribute to regeneration. We can but we can also retain the product ownership, and that's where the sharing economy, maybe you have heard of it, enters. And the last one is here that is called design for recycling, but I prefer to call it design for R, because in the circular economy we have more than just recycling. If you have heard of, we have also refurbishing, remanufacturing, repurposing of products, and this comes here. So a company, when it implements a circular strategy, the last solution should be the use of recycling. Recycling is a kind of very energy intensive process, right? Costly process. And actually there are different ways where we can close the loop. So we can close the loop rather than having it at the end and trying to recycle a material through a very expensive process and sometimes not profitable process. We can remanufacture our products by getting our products back, extracting components of it, repurposing products, remanufacturing, refurbishing, creating then also other market lines of companies that they have the normal product, the refurbished product with a certain discount, for example. But what needs to be understood is that sometimes there is a perceived low quality of what is repaired, refurbished, remanufactured, but actually, in some cases, the quality can be the same. And when companies implement this kind of strategies, they have to ask themselves, how easy is to recover what I want to recover, and how easy is to get my product back. So one is engaging, for example, the client, and that's what I was mentioning earlier, engaging the customer, produce innovation in how to engage the customer to get my product back. And that usually goes with communication and giving a benefit to the customer. And on the other hand, how easy do I get my product back? So that's where design actually enters the key phase. By designing in a more circular way the product, for example, by modularity, lower complexity, we allow for a more easier extraction of components, materials from products that then allow for the an easier remanufacture, easier repurpose, for refurbish, and easier recycle as well in the end, plus reducing the cost of all these processes. And that's why we work heavily with in the circular economy, rather than on one side we have the technological innovation that you have seen the examples, but then is also these innovations that we have for business innovation, how businesses are working, stakeholder innovation, so how we're addressing stakeholders, making them to work together so that they can produce the actual technological innovation that we need. And that's why I would like to close this with highlighting the importance of breaking the silos when we're dealing with businesses, helping them understand where are they. So where am I in my value chain? Where am I in a system? What is relevant? Where are the resource flows going? Understand this resource flow, understand the role of stakeholders and how we can work with them. Engage then the stakeholders, because once you understand them, you can engage with them, and then you can work together. And this requires interdisciplinary approach, systems thinking, and requests for high level of collaboration and connectivity. We're very, very high promoters of the need of collaboration and connectivity, because nations, regions, cities, and businesses can become circular on its own, can become regenerative on its own. We need systemic action. And given the time, I will just close with this. Just giving you a glimpse into what we're working right now, this term called network governance, which is actually the most innovative, let's say, field into how to engage stakeholders to actually develop bottom-up approaches that build circular innovation. And the final thing that I would like to close with, it's understanding that when we deal with resources, one of the resources that we often don't see as resource is data. And when we deal with circular economy, of course, we want to regenerate, create closed loops of material resources, allow for a better business, so revenues, lowering costs. But then the other is data, because data can enable all this, can enable the technologies that we saw before. And this can be done by some business models that actually were the ones that I mentioned about the sharing economy. When you have a product that is not sold, but that is just leased or shared in a way, the ownership stays in the company, which allows them to monitor the technology, allows them how to monitor how it's used, what is life cycle, what is performance, and allows for the innovation to improve a better to improve and get a better product, get a better process of production. So this is another innovation. Like by implementing a circular business model through sharing economy, you can generate the data that allows you to create other innovations in your company, innovations in your business, innovations on your process, in your production processes, and also feed into all the examples that we have done before, because all those examples that you have seen today are based on data. And that is very important for the whole circular economy. Once we have data, we can create actual circular loops. If we try to close loops without the data, we have not the certainty that we're dealing with an actual loop and actually solving the problem.
Marco?
Yes.
So thank you, really. I know that with the food for thought, you've co-created everything what we've actually learned today, but also challenged us with a lot of good cases and lots of good spirit was felt here through the circular ideas. But at the same time, what we really appreciate is that the circular is somehow fostering to regenerate it. So, but we need to go through the phases you've explained and through the cases based on technology and data and artificial intelligence and also blockchain and other technologies and approaches. I think we are really getting very far with this potential changes of the business models towards a regenerative economy. And this is what we are all striving for. So thank you so much really for all these very deep and at the same time very practical insights. And I'm sure that we will ask you again and again and again to share all this bunch of knowledge you have and experience with us, and also what you have gained through the Circular Chain platform. But what the idea is to go forward, to move forward to the regenerative not only status, but constant development. And I think without steps going once again and again through them, we cannot gain actually the regenerative spirit here around, and of course, to do regenerative economy. So thank you again. I'm sure that there are some questions from the audience, also online. We have already been a bit, I would say, long with our presentations, but there are so many great cases you've shown, so it's really, really very appreciated that you shared them with us. Any questions, any comments, any answers we need to give? Students? No? It was a lot of new knowledge today, right? Yeah, thank you for being patient and absorptive about this. And thank you to everyone who follow us, maybe from the online public. You can also write in the chat. Marco, maybe your final word here?
Yes, I would like to thank you once again for having me today with you here. These are very, if I exceeded a bit the time, this is a very topic that we are very passionate about. Sometimes we get caught in the topic. But I think if there is not too much time for questions, here is also my email. This is our website. Feel free to reach us, to communicate with us. We're available here also for any further questions, or if you're interested into what's the circular economy all about, examples. If you need connection in this sector, we're here available.
Thank you so much. Another question just written in the chat. Is it possible to get your presentation?
Yes, of course.
Perfect. So I think it's going to be another insight in what everything you have worked through in last years together with a team of Vladea Godina-Koshir, who is actually a champ also of a circular change in Europe. So thank you really to all of you and to the support to the faculty development in going towards regenerative economy and new knowledge in it. And thank you for supporting this project too.
So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And to all of you, dear students and the audience, it was a pleasure. It was a lot of new things we've heard about, a lot of cases, but lots of good examples where we can learn from and use them. And I think that this is something, what it was the message of today's webinar. Many new business models are already working, as we saw through the cases, but how to spread this around the world towards more and more regenerative economy. And this were also your concerns, dear students, which you've just raised up before. So how to spread it around the world. And this is our common challenge. Thank you. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice continuation there. Goodbye.
Before we close, those of you who are still online, do the survey. You send the link, so
Yeah.
do the survey, you will get it.
Yeah.
The course.
Absolutely. Our I would say how can I say, our wish and also a question to see how we have implemented this, whether we have tackled the topic in the way that you like, that you've learned out of it. Please do the survey. It's not going to take a lot of time, and it goes also for all online attendees. This is how we will learn more, again, how to prepare these topics and do it even better towards the regenerative moves in the future. Okay, please do that. Thank you. And thank you for all, I would say, very well supporting of the class. I felt a very good energy, and I think that you spread it also back to the online technology. Okay, thank you.